Next on the 5 o'clock report.
It's going to be a long year.
It's been a rough winter so far. Just a lot of calls.
As their wallets completely drained, they're all thrown in prison with the keys thrown out.
Body cameras, I agree. We should have body cameras on ICE agents.
Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. A victory for children. There has been a landmark ruling against gender reassignment surgery for minors, the first of its kind in the United States, and it happened in a New York State Supreme Court. A 22-year-old detransitioner just won a $2 million award against her psychologist and her surgeon, saying there was a lack of informed consent when the surgery was performed as she was a minor. Fellow detransitioner Chloe Cole spoke about the case on Fox News this morning.
I think that $2 million is not nearly enough to compensate for the damages that these doctors have done to my generation. I think that it would only be right if every single doctor, every single clinic that's been involved in this has their wallets completely drained. They're all thrown in prison with the keys thrown out.
Cole says the very loud victory will likely set the stage for wins in dozens of other similar cases across the United States.
Especially in a blue state like New York. This bodes well for the rest of the 28 cases, including my own, of all the children who have been harmed and are seeking legal justice.
The family says they were coached by the surgical team that their daughter may take her own life without gender transition surgery. In Buxton, North Carolina, the Atlantic Ocean swallowed a beach home today. It was part of a winter storm that's blamed for 3 deaths. 18 inches of snow is still on the ground in central North Carolina, and power outages and school closures are impacting parts of the Deep South. Tens of thousands in Mississippi and Tennessee remain without heat a full week after an ice storm hit 35 states. Power companies there say the damage was so bad it could be another week in the dark.
Another week is a hard pill to swallow.
Back at home, 25 degrees feels warm this afternoon at our studios in Bath, New York, but don't get too comfortable. We'll have 4 for a high on Saturday. The yo-yo continues. This woman sells sidewalk salt in Oswego.
It's definitely been a busy snow season so far, so it's going to be a long year.
Dead batteries and long delays left hundreds stranded across Buffalo over the weekend. AAA needs more employees to handle the calls.
It's been a rough winter so far. Just a lot of calls. Call volume is very high.
Technician Christian Tabak says roadside assistance is taking 3,000 calls a day in Buffalo alone, most for dead car batteries. He says it's preventable, even in this cold.
At least a couple times a week, a good 45-minute drive out and a good 45-minute drive back. That's going to get the fluids in the car moving. It's going to get the battery charging.
In Washington, D.C., members of the U.S. House are huddled today on day 3 of the partial government shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson wants everything done by tomorrow, but CBS's Nicole Killian says that's unlikely.
According to our sources, the Speaker had a conversation with Leader Jeffries over the weekend where it was conveyed that House Democrats would not put up extra votes to fast-track this measure, so that's why it's got to go through the more traditional process.
The sticking point is funding ICE. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on ABC's This Week.
ICE agents should conduct themselves like every other law enforcement agency in the country, as opposed to running around mass thugs, in many instances, unleashing brutality.
Many Democrats want ICE agents to wear body cams and have their name on their clothes. Georgia Republican Congressman Buddy Carter.
Body cameras, I agree. We should have body cameras on ICE agents, and we put that into the appropriations budget. Now, the other things that they're demanding, I'm not sure. We need to make sure we protect our ICE agents. They are heroes. They're doing their job. They're trying to protect the American citizens here.
Authorities in Arizona have now launched a criminal investigation as they search for the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing over the weekend. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos.
We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we've processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene. that we do in fact have a crime.
He says Nancy Guthrie cannot have gone far from her house on her own because she has limited mobility. Deal reached. President Trump says he plans to lower tariffs on goods from India to 18% from 25%. CBS's Stacey Lynn explains why.
In a post on Truth Social, the president claimed Modi agreed to stop buying Russian oil and to buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. He says this will help end the war in Ukraine.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced 2 more arrests in the Minnesota church protest. The announcement follows the arrest and release of journalist Don Lemon for the same incident. Bondi said in a social media post today, quote, "If you riot in a place of worship, we will find you." The pair, along with 7 others, are named in a federal indictment and charged with conspiracy against the rights of religious freedom at a place of worship. And there was a neat moment at the Grammys last night. Brandon Lake and Jelly Roll won a Grammy Sunday for their chart-topping song Hard Fought Hallelujah. Jelly Roll used his few seconds on stage for this.
And I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label.
He says he re-embraced his faith 2 years ago, prompted by his daughter's interest to be baptized. And now he wants to share that faith with the world.
Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him.
Using his platform for a purpose. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, Josh Shapiro prepares for his budget address. 3,000 calls for dead batteries, and what do you do when you run out of snow days? Those stories after weather.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. For tonight, moonlight giving way to cloud cover. Flurries arriving in western New York. Low temperatures, mainly single digits to mid-teens. Tuesday and Wednesday, clouds, limited sun with flurries. Lake effect snow with some small accumulations in the east and southeast of Lake Ontario. High temperatures on Tuesday, 20s to near 30. It'll be a brisk and colder day Wednesday with high temperatures in the mid-teens to the middle 20s.
All right, Kevin, checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro will deliver his 4th budget address tomorrow. At the top of the priority list, affordable housing, then energy. Pennsylvania leaders are out ahead of the speech with their thoughts. House Minority Leader Jesse Topper says Shapiro is pulling too much from the financial reserves.
From a budgetary standpoint, we need to see a realistic number, first and foremost. I think some of the unrealistic expectations that were set over the last budget address set us back.
Republicans say they're not budging on legalizing recreational marijuana, and both sides are concerned about the deadlock that happened last year when the budget came in 135 days late. Democratic Majority Leader Matthew Bradford told Fox 43 Republicans have to sort out their own caucus first to prevent a late budget.
I'm hopeful that they're going to get their act together and we're going to get a budget in place.
Topper's response?
It requires all of us to go into a room and understand that we need to do things for the good of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, not necessarily in response to the next election cycle.
All the cold weather outside made quite a mess over the weekend in Buffalo. Nearly a dozen homes and businesses were flooded by a massive water main break over the weekend. Deputy Mayor Benjamin Swanekamp.
The weather's been a factor in multiple ways here. So with the extreme cold, that is causing the ground to expand, and that's shifting pipes. That can cause breaks throughout the system.
Some basements took on several feet of water.
This is probably one of the top 10s of worst situations I've ever been through.
The Buffalo Public Works Department says it's responding to half a dozen calls a day for water main breaks due to the severe cold. The next round hits us on Saturday. A new and tougher point system starts this month for New York State drivers who run afoul of the law. Family Life's Mark Webster has details.
Yeah, among the changes effective February 26th, drunk or drug driving will count up to 11 points. That's enough for a license suspension or revocation. Same for speeding more than 40 miles an hour over the posted limit. Passing a stopped school bus, speeding in a work zone, or reckless driving will cost you 8 points. Improper cell phone use while driving, 6 points. And violations that will now rack up points include equipment violations, illegal U-turns, and failing to move over for emergency vehicles. For chronic offenders, the DMV will also expand the points look-back window to 24 months and lower the threshold for losing your license permanently. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
And a proposal in Harrisburg could give some Pennsylvania school kids a little extra time to sleep in the morning. The legislation provides financial incentives for districts to implement later start times for middle and high schoolers. Medical experts say about 80% of U.S. teenagers are sleep deprived. Next at 5, our own Bob Price sits down with Dr. Ralph Kerr of the Teaching and Learning Institute. The topic? Snow days. Let's listen in.
I call it the superintendent's dilemma because there's no way that you can make the right decision in this case. Obviously, superintendents are concerned for the safety of the students, first of all.
Yeah.
And then they're also concerned for the faculty and staff. And for parents, they may need to make alternative childcare arrangements. And if you decide to close, you've got a group of people that say, what's wrong with you? It's not that bad. If you do not close, people say, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know, the superintendents end up talking to their transportation people. They may call the highway superintendent. The best story I had, though, was one time I called the state police, and I said, what can you tell me about the roads and the weather? And the officer said, well, I just got back from walking out to the mailbox, and everything looks fine to me. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
And finally, students, I've been in this situation as well, where I go into the office on a snow day, and kids come by and say, hey, thanks for the day off. I really like this a lot. So,
that makes you feel good as a superintendent.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, you're either the best of friends or the worst of enemies.
There
like
you
said,
go.
you can't win when it comes to calling the snow days. So I asked my wife, who's a teacher, I said, how many more days, snow days do you have left? She has 1. I look on the calendar, Ralph, it's February 2nd. If you've lived in New York or Pennsylvania for any amount of time, you know that there may be another winter storm or two left before spring arrives. So what do you do if you've used all your snow days for the year? What happens next if you get a big storm?
Yeah, you know, that has happened a few years ago, actually, and the Commissioner of Education has the authority to waive the 180-day requirement at least up to 5 days if a school applies for extraordinary condition days. Also, last week, several schools just said we're going remote, and then that counts as an instructional day.
Yeah.
If all of those things don't work, there are times when you just have to make up the days, and that is not a good thing to announce to anybody, I can tell you.
Well, you start taking those spring break days, it's like, oh no.
Yeah,
but
that's not a good one.
That's Dr. Ralph Kerr of the Teaching and Learning Institute. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Issues in Education and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org.
Few stories reveal the human heart quite like a family conflict over money. Hi, I'm Rob West, and this is a Faith and Finance Minute. Jesus tells one of his most familiar stories in the parable of the prodigal son. We often focus on the younger son, the one who wastes his inheritance and returns home empty-handed. His story reminds us that entitlement and money-driven hope never deliver the joy they promise. But there's another lesson in the older brother. He stayed home, worked hard, and followed the rules. Yet when grace was extended, he resisted it. His heart was marked by comparison and entitlement. Though obedient on the outside, he treated his father's wealth as something to earn, not share. Ultimately, this story is about a father whose generosity reshapes how we live and give. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, a skid steer in a couple hours made all the difference in St. Louis. On deck next, the story of the snowplow vigilante after one last look at weather.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A cold night is ahead tonight, but we're taking the edge off the chill as the air mass over us will be modifying somewhat ahead of the next disturbance set to bring some midweek flurries. Our call for tonight, moonlight giving way to cloud cover. Flurries arriving in western New York. Low temperatures, mainly single digits to mid-teens. For Tuesday and Wednesday, clouds, limited sun with flurries. Lake effect snow with some small accumulations to the east and southeast of Lake Ontario. High temperatures on Tuesday, 20s to near 30. It'll be a brisk and colder day Wednesday with high temperatures in the mid-teens to the middle 20s.
All right, Kevin, finally at 5, there is a section of St. Louis known as Dogtown, and that's where city resident Kenneth Harrell's dogged assault on snow-clogged streets has been a godsend. Noting how people there were having a hard time driving around and parking, he spent $500 of his own money to rent a skid steer and got to work, telling KSDK.
People were asking what we were charging. I didn't really know what to say, so I just kind of a donation or deal, I guess. Just whatever you could afford. Let's just get everybody out and moving around.
Once word got around, residents like Karen Vale started texting him, asking for help.
He inboxed me today and said, I'll be there shortly. I'm like, yay! So no, but this is what community looks like.
And if you're wondering how the city feels about his freelance snow clearing effort, Streets Commissioner Kent Flake says, go ahead, clear the flakes.
I mean, if they're helping, I'm not going to tell them no.
Fewer St. Louis residents singing the blues about the snow thanks to the snowplow vigilante, Kenneth Harrell. And that's the world that we live in for Monday, the 2nd of February. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.